Her kingdom was dying, but the princess was just beginning. Cities floated above the oceans, glowing with energy harvested from the planet's core. Vast fields of bioengineered crops shimmered in the sunlight, feeding millions. Rivers ran clean, and the skies were filled with birds and drones alike, coexisting in harmony. But that was a long time ago. Now the oceans had receded into salt flats, the rivers had dried to cracked channels, and storms of black ash rolled endlessly across the dying lands. Radiation waves struck without warning, making vast stretches of land uninhabitable. The cities that had once floated proudly above the water now hung like hollow skeletons over empty beds. Inside the palace, the heart of this dying world, Princess Liara watched the chaos through the shattered observatory windows. The sky was orange, heavy with ash. She had spent years staring at this view, trying not to feel powerless. At barely 18, she carried the weight of her people's suffering like a stone in her chest. Her father, King Varian, aged and tired, tried to maintain order and hope, but each day brought fresh crises. Food shortages, failing energy grids, and the slow decay of the planet itself pressed down on the kingdom. The king consulted with advisors, sent messages to nearby star systems begging for help, but one by one, the requests were ignored. The galaxy had grown cold and indifferent. Liara's days were filled with observation and study. She wandered the palace halls in silence, reading old manuscripts and technological records left behind by her ancestors. The palace, like the kingdom, was a shadow of its former glory. Great halls were empty, corridors dark, and the walls carried the faint smell of ozone from the decaying power systems. Yet Liara found comfort in these quiet moments of study. She had always been curious, always seeking answers that others might overlook. She memorized star charts, the blueprints of ancient engines, and the designs of machines long abandoned. One night, as the ash storm raged outside, Liara discovered something that made her heart beat faster. Behind a sliding panel in the northern wing of the palace, she found a hidden chamber. Dust covered every surface, but the air inside was thick with purpose, as if it had been waiting for her. In the center of the room was a strange console, glowing faintly with life, and beside it, a sleek pod that hummed quietly. Liara approached cautiously. The console flickered and a holographic figure emerged. "I am Orion," said the AI, its voice calm, precise, and unfeeling yet not unpleasant. "I am the guardian of the royal line. You have been chosen to inherit knowledge that has been kept secret for generations." Liara's eyes widened. She had read about AIs in the archives, but she had never expected to find one sleeping in the palace like a guardian of forgotten treasures. She asked, "What is this place? Why is it hidden?" Orion's hologram shimmered. "This chamber contains technology designed to protect the kingdom in case of planetary collapse. Your ancestors feared a time like this, and they built a contingency. Among these artifacts is the Genesis engine, a device capable of restoring the planet's ecosystems, purifying the water, rebuilding the atmosphere. It has not been used because it is dangerous and untested. Only one with courage, intelligence, and determination can activate it." Liara's heart pounded. The Genesis engine was a legend, a story she had heard as a child, a device so powerful it could revive an entire planet. But the thought of activating it alone, venturing beyond the kingdom and facing the unknown, was terrifying. "Do you mean I have to leave Urindor, to go into the galaxy by myself?" she asked. "Only one with your attributes can succeed," Orion replied. "The galaxy is harsh, but your ingenuity and resilience may allow you to prevail where others have failed." Liara spent the rest of the night studying the console, reading the schematics, and speaking with Orion. She learned that the Genesis engine required not only a physical activation, but also a mind capable of understanding its complex systems. It was a test of intellect, courage, and determination, One misstep could destroy what remained of the kingdom or even her life. By dawn, the decision had formed in her mind. If Erendor was to die, it would not die silently. If her people were to perish, she would make sure that their story survived. She would journey beyond the dying skies of her planet, past the indifference of the galaxy, and find the means to save her world. The next days were filled with preparation. Liara moved quietly, gathering parts, repairing old starships hidden in the palace vaults, and learning every detail of the vessel that would carry her. Orion guided her, offering calculations, warnings, and encouragement. She discovered the ship had once been designed for exploration beyond the known star systems. Its engines were ancient, but with careful repair and modification, they could carry her to the farthest reaches of space. The people of Erendor began to notice her preparations. Rumors spread through the dying cities that the princess planned to leave, venturing into the void alone. Many dismissed her as a child playing at heroism, while others watched with curiosity and hope. Liara ignored the whispers. She had learned long ago that action mattered more than opinion. One night, as she repaired the engine core, her father entered the chamber quietly. "Liara," he said softly, "you do not have to do this. The kingdom is dying, yes, but leaving may not save anything. It could cost you your life." Liara looked up from the console, her eyes steady. "Father, if I do nothing, everything ends. If I try, maybe, just maybe, we survive. The people need hope, even if it comes from one person's courage. That has to be enough." King Varian sighed. He knew she was right. The galaxy had turned away from their cries for help, leaving Erendor to fend for itself. If anyone could challenge that indifference, it would be Liara. With a heavy heart, he nodded. "Then go, my daughter. Go and be what the kingdom needs." With the king's blessing and Orion's guidance, Liara completed her final preparations. She programmed the ship's navigation, repaired its engines, and studied the star charts for routes that would take her beyond known space. She learned to make do with what little she had, to improvise when systems failed, and to remain calm under pressure. Every failure became a lesson, every minor victory a step towards survival. Finally, the night came to leave. The palace gates opened, revealing the vast, ash-choked skies above. Citizens had gathered in silence, many too weak or fearful to express hope, but their eyes followed her as she ascended the launch platform. Liara climbed into the cockpit, Orion's holographic presence appearing beside her. "Are you ready?" Orion asked. Liara took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her kingdom pressing on her shoulders. "I am ready," she said. The engines roared to life, shaking the platform as the ship lifted from the palace grounds. Fire and energy flared from the thrusters, illuminating the darkened city below. Citizens watched as the young princess ascended, her small vessel disappearing into the ash-filled sky. As the planet fell behind her, Liara looked out at the stars, each one a promise and a challenge. The galaxy was vast, indifferent and dangerous, but she would not fail. She carried the hopes of her people, the memory of a dying world, and the determination of a human heart that refused to surrender. In the solitude of space, Liara encountered her first challenges almost immediately. A cluster of rogue asteroids loomed ahead, threatening to tear the ship apart. She calculated their paths, adjusted the engines, and threaded the ship through the deadly field. Her hands moved with precision, guided by instinct and the knowledge she had spent years acquiring. Orion's voice offered advice, but it was Liara's courage and quick thinking that carried them through. Beyond the asteroid field, she discovered the remnants of old starships, drifting silently. Some were ancient explorers, others were merchants or military vessels lost to time. She salvaged what she could, repairing systems and gathering supplies, knowing that every resource might be crucial in the trials ahead. Each encounter tested her patience, her skills, and her resolve, but Liara grew stronger with every challenge. Days turned into weeks as she navigated through uncharted sectors. The loneliness pressed upon her, but she found strength in small victories. A repair completed, a calculation corrected, a minor threat avoided. She began to understand that survival required more than courage. It required ingenuity, adaptability, and the willingness to learn from every mistake. And always, the memory of Urindor burned in her mind. The ash-choked skies, the dried rivers, the hollow cities. That image became her motivation, her reason to push forward when fatigue or fear threatened to overwhelm her. She was the last hope of a dying kingdom, and she would not allow it to fade into nothingness. As Liara charted a course toward the outer rim, where the Genesis engine was said to exist, she realized that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers and wonders beyond imagining. But she was ready. She was a princess, yes, but she was also a human being, resilient, inventive, and unyielding. And in that, she knew, lay the true power to defy extinction. Liara's journey had begun, and with it, the faint spark of hope for a kingdom that refused to die. The stars stretched endlessly before Princess Liara as her ship left Urindor's orbit. The kingdom's ash-choked skies were now a memory, replaced by the deep black of space and the distant glimmer of stars. Orion hovered nearby in his holographic form, analyzing every readout, every signal, and every possibility. "We are entering an uncharted sector," he said. "Caution is advised. Unknown variables may be lethal." Liara gripped the controls, feeling the subtle vibrations of the engines beneath her hands. She didn't need Orion to remind her of the risks. Each star, each drifting rock, each silent planet was a potential threat. Yet she also felt something else, an exhilaration she had never experienced on her dying world. Out here, there were no limits imposed by ash storms or collapsing cities. Out here, she could shape her own path. Her first challenge arrived sooner than expected. A rogue fleet of automated scavenger drones detected her ship as she passed through a debris field left by ancient interstellar battles. Their sensors locked onto her vessel, and beams of energy streaked across space toward her. Liara's heart raced. She had learned about combat in theory but never in practice. Yet she did not panic. She calculated their trajectories, adjusting the engines to weave between the beams. Orion guided her in real time. Increase velocity by 12%. Divert auxiliary power to shields. Liara followed his instructions, but then she realized the drones were adapting faster than anticipated. Their attack patterns changed, anticipating her moves. Thinking quickly, she activated the ship's emergency system, releasing decoy drones she had repaired from scavenged parts in the palace vaults. The enemy units fired upon the decoys, and the distraction allowed Liara to accelerate beyond their reach. Her hands shook with adrenaline, but she felt a surge of triumph. Space was ruthless, but human creativity, her creativity, had won the day. In the following days, she encountered more obstacles. Derelict ships floated aimlessly, some rigged with traps or automated defenses. Liara had to board them occasionally to salvage fuel, food supplies, or spare parts. Each boarding was dangerous, as she never knew if the ship would collapse, explode, or contain hostile automated guardians. Yet every challenge made her more confident, more capable. She began to notice patterns in the chaos of the galaxy. Some systems had collapsed long ago, abandoned by any sentient species. Others were controlled by factions that had survived through cunning or brutality. Liara encountered a group of traitors who initially tried to cheat her, underestimating the princess as just another naive traveler. She smiled quietly as she observed them, then used the ship's communication system to project holographic images of other star systems under her watch, convincing them that she had knowledge far beyond their understanding. The traders apologized quickly and offered her supplies in return. Orion watched silently, recording her every action. "Human adaptability continues to exceed my projections," he noted one evening as Liara repaired a malfunctioning navigation system. "Your capacity to improvise solutions under stress is remarkable," Liara smiled. "Improvisation is survival. That's all humans have ever done." Her next encounter was far more dangerous. A collapsing star system lay ahead, with a black hole forming at its center. The gravitational pull was uneven, throwing entire planets and debris into chaotic orbits. Most vessels avoided it entirely, but the Genesis engine was rumored to exist near the outer edge of this sector. Liara had no choice but to navigate through. She calculated the safest path, but even her best computations were challenged by sudden gravitational shifts. One moment, she drifted peacefully among a cluster of small planets. The next, a massive fragment of rock shot toward her vessel at incredible speed. She adjusted the engines, maneuvering the ship with precision, but the rock grazed the hull, leaving deep scratches and damaging the shield arrays. Her breath caught, but she refused to panic. She rerouted power to stabilize the shields and repaired the damaged hull using makeshift tools. By the time she emerged from the system, Liara felt a sense of exhaustion unlike anything she had experienced. But with that exhaustion came a strange exhilaration, a feeling that she was learning, evolving, and growing stronger with each trial. Every danger was a teacher, every obstacle a lesson in resilience. Days passed in relative quiet. Liara used the time to study alien star maps she had found in derelict stations, noting trade routes, abandoned colonies, and old war zones. She also practiced interfacing with Orion, learning to think like the AI in some situations, anticipating his calculations and corrections. The bond between human and machine grew stronger, built on mutual respect and necessity. Then came the first real test of diplomacy. Liara entered a system controlled by the Krithar, a species known for their warlike nature and suspicion of outsiders. Their patrols intercepted her ship almost immediately, surrounding her with massive vessels that dwarfed her small craft. Holographic images projected across her cockpit showed towering alien figures, eyes glowing, voices booming in a language she did not know. Orion advised caution. The Krithar are unlikely to respond to reason, avoid confrontation if possible. Liara studied the fleet. Fighting would be suicide. Negotiating seemed impossible. Then an idea came. She accessed the star charts she had gathered and manipulated the ship's sensors to project false readings. She made it appear as if her vessel carried a dangerous, unknown energy source capable of destabilizing the Krithar fleet. At the same time, she transmitted a simple universal message. She came in peace, representing a civilization worthy of respect. The Krithar paused. Their massive ships altered course, cautious now. Liara kept her heart steady, waiting. Then, unexpectedly, one of the Krithar commanders communicated in broken universal speech. "Explain why we should allow passage." Liara spoke clearly, carefully, her words simple but truthful. "I am alone. I seek knowledge and a device that can save my planet. I do not seek war or conquest. Allow me passage and I will leave your system without harm." There was a long silence. Then slowly the Krithar ships moved aside, opening a path. Liara exhaled, relief flooding her. She had survived her first diplomatic encounter through ingenuity, honesty, and careful improvisation. She had learned that humans could win battles without firing a single shot, by thinking, adapting, and understanding others. Her confidence grew, but she knew the galaxy would not be this forgiving forever. Each success carried its own risk. Other systems would be less tolerant, more dangerous, or more cunning. She had to continue learning, continue adapting. Weeks turned into months as she traveled deeper into unknown space. She began mapping her own routes, finding hidden supply caches, abandoned stations, and ancient AI cores left by civilizations long gone. Liara scavenged, repaired, and improved her ship constantly, turning it into a vessel more capable than any in her kingdom had ever possessed. She learned to predict space weather, to read radiation storms, and to avoid deadly debris fields. Every step made her more self-reliant, more capable, more human in her ability to endure and adapt. But the galaxy was not without wonder. Liara discovered planets with bioluminescent forests, oceans that glowed with microscopic life, and mountains taller than anything on Erendor. She witnessed phenomena that Orion could calculate but never truly appreciate. Solar storms that painted the sky in impossible colors, rings of ice and rock spinning in silent harmony, and alien wildlife thriving in conditions that seemed deadly. She realized that the universe was both cruel and beautiful, dangerous and magnificent. And she, a single human being, was navigating it with nothing but her courage and mind. One night, as she rested in the cockpit, staring at a nearby nebula swirling with purple and gold, she spoke aloud to Orion. "Do you think the Genesis engine is real?" Orion's hologram flickered. "All evidence suggests it exists, but there are no guarantees. Many who have sought it never returned. It is a dangerous device and its guardians are unknown. Proceed with caution." Liara nodded, staring at the swirling lights. She knew the risks, she knew the dangers, but she also knew one undeniable truth: she would not stop. Her kingdom depended on it. Her people's survival depended on it. And she would continue to prove that human courage, intelligence, and perseverance could overcome even the vast indifference of the galaxy. Days later, she reached a sector where the remains of a lost civilization drifted, massive space stations, some hollowed out by time, others destroyed in wars long forgotten. Among the ruins, she found clues about the Genesis engine's location. Ancient star charts, encrypted logs, and fragments of data pointed to a distant system on the edge of known space. Liara carefully collected and analyzed every piece, connecting the dots. She felt a thrill she had never known in Erendor. The thrill of discovery, the joy of understanding, the pulse of hope that perhaps, just perhaps, salvation was within reach. Her journey had only just begun, but already she had faced dangers, navigated unknown systems, outsmarted warlike aliens, and survived the void itself. She had proven to herself and the galaxy that humans were more than fragile creatures in a dying world. They were capable, resilient, and unstoppable when driven by necessity and hope. And Liara, the princess of a dying kingdom, was only just beginning. Princess Liara had traveled farther than any human from Erendor had ever gone. The stars stretched endlessly, and yet her destination, the Genesis engine, was still distant. Orion's calculations confirmed that the engine existed in a star system on the edge of known space, but reaching it would not be simple. The path was full of danger, and the closer she got, the more the universe seemed to test her resolve. The first warning came in the form of a massive energy field surrounding the system. As Liara's ship approached, instruments went haywire. The sensors could barely detect the planets within, and readings fluctuated wildly. Orion projected the data onto the cockpit screen, his holographic image flickering in concern. "This field is unlike anything I have encountered. It is artificially generated and appears to serve as a barrier. Entering it without proper calculation could destroy the vessel." Liara studied the energy waves. They pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat. "If it's a barrier, there must be a way through," she said. "Everything has a pattern. We just have to find it." She spent hours analyzing the field, observing the pulse, and noting slight variations. Finally, she identified a narrow window in the wave cycle, just enough time to slip through safely. She held her breath, engaged the engines, and accelerated. The ship trembled as it passed through the barrier, shields flaring with energy. For a moment, it felt as if the stars themselves were pressing against her vessel, trying to tear it apart. But then they were through. The system lay before her, silent and foreboding. The Genesis engine's location was on a small planet at the system's center, orbiting a dying sun. The planet was massive, with jagged mountains and vast deserts of black crystal. Liara descended carefully, scanning for signs of life. But it was not empty. Orbiting the planet were massive warships, sleek and dark, each one radiating power. These were the Virithians, an ancient alien race known across the galaxy for their ruthlessness. They had destroyed civilizations before, protecting the Genesis engine from any who might misuse it. Liara's stomach tightened. Confronting the Virithians directly would be impossible. She could not hope to fight their ships in space. They were too fast, too powerful, and far too numerous. But Orion's voice remained calm. We will need strategy, ingenuity, and precision. Direct confrontation is not an option. For days, she observed their movements from a hidden orbit, noting patrol patterns, energy signatures, and communication signals. She discovered that the Virithians did not always move in coordinated fleets. Sometimes ships would orbit independently, scanning the planet's surface. Other times they focused on the edges of the system, leaving temporary gaps in the defense. Liara began to plan. She would not fight them with weapons. She would fight them with her mind. The first step was infiltration. Using her knowledge of old technology and Orion's computational power, Liara modified her ship to appear as one of the Virithian patrols. She studied their energy signatures, recalibrated her engines, and projected false identification codes. Every calculation had to be perfect. One mistake would expose her instantly. When she approached the outermost patrol, the Virithians scanned her ship. Liara's heart raced, but she maintained her composure. The sensors identified her vessel as a patrol unit, and she was allowed to pass. Inside, she felt a thrill of triumph. For the first time, her intelligence and preparation had matched the galaxy's most fearsome warriors. She continued inward, creeping closer to the planet. Along the way, she encountered other patrols, each one more sophisticated than the last. Liara's hands moved quickly across the control panels, adjusting energy emissions, manipulating sensor readings, and recalculating trajectories in real time. It was exhausting, but she did not falter. Every success built her confidence, and with each pass, she felt herself drawing nearer to the Genesis engine. Finally, she reached the planet's surface. The Virithians had established a fortress around the engine, a massive structure carved into the black crystal mountains. Its spires glowed faintly, powered by energy she could only imagine. The fortress was patrolled by Virithian warriors, towering figures with armor that shimmered like metal and eyes that glowed with intelligence and suspicion. Liara knew she could not confront them directly. She needed another plan. She studied the fortress, noting weak points, patrol patterns, and energy flows. Then she realized something extraordinary. The Virithians were not invincible. They relied heavily on automated systems to monitor intruders, but their protocols were predictable. If she could hack into the outer security network, she might be able to create a window of opportunity. Orion worked silently, guiding her through the process. Liara interfaced with the network, bypassing firewalls, decrypting codes, and inserting subtle commands. Her mind raced, calculations running faster than her heart could beat. Finally, a path opened. Sensors were redirected, patrols shifted, and a narrow corridor became accessible. Liara moved through the fortress carefully, every step measured, every motion deliberate. The Virithians observed her from a distance, but their perception was limited by the security protocols she had manipulated. It was tense, exhausting, and dangerous. One misstep, one false calculation, and she would be discovered. At last, she reached the central chamber where the Genesis engine rested. It was enormous, unlike anything she had imagined. Towers of energy spiraled upward, and a pulsating core radiated warmth and light. The air hummed with power, almost alive. Liara approached cautiously, her mind racing with instructions from Orion. Activating the engine required precise coordination, understanding of alien technology, and a calm mind under immense pressure. As she prepared the activation sequence, alarms suddenly blared. The Verithians had detected the intrusion. Their warriors moved with astonishing speed, converging on the chamber. Liara's heart pounded. She had no weapons, no backup, only her wits and her courage. "Liara," Orion said urgently, "we must act now. The engine will not wait." She took a deep breath and focused. Using a combination of her human intuition and Orion's calculations, she began the activation process. Panels lit up, energy surged, and the engine hummed louder, resonating through the chamber. Liara's hands flew across the controls, synchronizing power flows, adjusting energy pulses, and stabilizing the core. The Verithians entered, their towering forms casting shadows across the chamber. Liara did not look up. She did not flinch. She focused on the engine, trusting her skills and determination. She could feel the energy building, a force unlike anything she had ever encountered. It was almost overwhelming, but she persisted, channeling her focus into a single goal, saving her kingdom. The Verithians tried to intervene, but Liara anticipated their movements. She manipulated the engine's energy in ways they could not predict, creating a barrier that pushed them back without causing harm. It was a delicate balance, requiring every ounce of skill and courage she possessed. Finally, the core reached full activation. Energy surged outward, illuminating the chamber with blinding light. The Verithians paused, observing the power with a mixture of awe and caution. Liara's heart raced. She knew this was the turning point. Either she succeeded, or everything she had risked would be lost. With one final calculation, she completed the sequence. The Genesis engine roared to life, sending waves of energy outward. The fortress trembled, and for a moment the entire planet seemed to hold its breath. Then, slowly, the energy stabilized, radiating a controlled pulse that spread across the planet. Liara slumped in relief, exhausted but triumphant. She had done it. Against overwhelming odds, she had reached the Genesis engine, activated it, and begun the process of saving her kingdom. She had faced the Verithians, navigated their defenses, and outsmarted the galaxy's most fearsome guardians, all without firing a single weapon. Orion's voice was calm but filled with respect. Human ingenuity, resilience, and courage continue to surpass expectations. You have accomplished what few could even imagine. Liara smiled faintly, exhaustion washing over her. She knew the Verithians were still observing, still wary, but they did not interfere further. Perhaps they recognized her determination, her intelligence, or the sheer force of her human will. Whatever the reason, she had earned a measure of their respect. As she prepared to leave the planet, she took a moment to look back at the Genesis engine. It hummed with power, a beacon of hope for her dying kingdom. Liara knew that the journey was far from over. She still had to return to Urandor, to ensure the energy reached her planet and restored it fully. But for the first time, she felt a spark of hope, a belief that her people could survive, that the kingdom could live again. The galaxy was still vast, still full of unknown dangers, but Liara had proven something undeniable. Humans could face impossible odds, adapt, survive, and succeed. Her courage, intelligence, and determination had carried her this far, and they would continue to guide her home. And so, with the Genesis engine activated, Liara began the journey back to her planet, carrying not just the hope of Urandor, but the proof that humanity, even in the face of extinction, could achieve the extraordinary. Liara left the Genesis engine's planet with a sense of determination that burned hotter than any star. The journey back to Urandor was no less dangerous than her voyage outward. The galaxy had not grown any kinder in the meantime. Asteroid belts shifted unpredictably, radiation storms surged, and rogue satellites from long-abandoned civilizations drifted in her path. Yet she moved steadily, every calculation precise, every maneuver deliberate. Orion's guidance was constant, but Liara's confidence had grown. She had survived threats far beyond the expectations of any human. She knew she could survive this too. As she approached the outer reaches of Urandor's star system, she began to see signs of the changes her activation of the Genesis engine had begun to produce. Sensors detected small fluctuations in the planet's atmosphere, oxygen levels improving, radiation levels decreasing slightly, and small pockets of cloud formations returning. The news gave her heart a lift. For the first time in her life, she saw that her efforts might not be in vain. The return journey was not simple. A rogue fleet of scavenger drones, remnants of interstellar pirates, had detected the unusual energy signals emitted from her ship and decided to intercept her. These drones were aggressive, fast, and relentless. Liara knew that evasion alone would not suffice. She had to use every skill she had acquired during her journey. "Orion, prepare the decoy systems," she commanded, her hands flying across the control panels. The decoys were hastily constructed from scraps she had gathered during her outward journey. The drones fired upon the decoys, and Liara maneuvered her ship with precision, weaving through the swarm while conserving energy for the final approach to her planet. It was exhausting, but her mind was sharp. She anticipated their movements, exploited blind spots in their targeting algorithms, and used gravitational pulls from nearby asteroids to create unpredictable paths. One by one, the drones fell behind, disabled or destroyed by their own mistakes. Liara had survived yet another trial, proving that human ingenuity and courage could triumph even against superior numbers and advanced technology. By the time she finally cleared the final cluster of threats, Urandor's surface was visible beneath her. The planet was still battered and scarred, its rivers cracked and its cities partially ruined, but it was no longer lifeless. Small bursts of green appeared in some fields, pockets of water shimmered faintly, and the haze that had choked the skies was thinning. Liara felt a surge of hope that she had not dared to feel for many years. She descended carefully, guided by Orion. The landing was precarious, the palace grounds weakened by years of neglect and storms. Yet the ship touched down safely. Citizens had gathered despite the ash still lingering in the air. Many were weak, fearful, and unsure, but their eyes were wide with awe as the small vessel landed. They had heard rumors of the princess's journey, but seeing her return, alive and triumphant, sparked a new hope in their hearts. Liara climbed out of the ship, her uniform dusty, her hair tangled but her posture proud. She addressed the citizens, her voice carrying over the trembling crowd. "Urandor is not lost. It is wounded, yes, but it is alive. The Genesis engine is active and its energy will heal our world. Together we will rebuild. Together we will rise." The citizens erupted in cheers, some crying, some hugging one another. Liara felt a warmth she had not experienced during the long, lonely journey through space. For the first time, she realized that her struggle had not been for nothing. The people of Urandor could see hope again, and that hope was tangible, growing with every passing moment. But activating the Genesis engine fully was not a task she could leave to the citizens alone. She had to ensure its energy spread across the entire planet in a controlled manner, stabilizing ecosystems, replenishing water, and purifying the air. She returned to the palace, which had been her refuge and her observation point before she left. Now it served as the command center for the final phase of the restoration. The chamber beneath the palace, where she had discovered Orion and the plans for the Genesis engine, became her focus once more. The console hummed with energy, responding to her presence. She interfaced with the systems, guided by Orion, carefully synchronizing the planetary grids with the engine's output. Every calculation was critical. Even a minor misalignment could cause catastrophic feedback, potentially worsening the planet's condition rather than healing it. Hours passed as she monitored the activation, adjusting energy flows, stabilizing pulses, and ensuring that the engine's effects reached even the most devastated regions of the planet. Slowly, gradually, signs of recovery began to appear. Forests once burned to black ash showed tiny sprouts of green. Rivers began to flow, glimmering as water reclaimed its path through dry valleys. The air became breathable again in isolated areas, carrying the faint scent of life. Liara worked tirelessly, her determination unwavering. Orion provided constant feedback, analyzing the effects, predicting outcomes, and guiding her hands. The AI marveled at the precision, ingenuity, and perseverance of a single human being guiding such a powerful force. No algorithm or machine could achieve this without your intervention, Orion noted. You have redefined the boundaries of human capability. Despite the exhaustion, Liara continued. She remembered the people she had seen suffering, the dying rivers and scorched fields, and the hollow cities. Each image fueled her determination. Every minor success was a step closer to fully restoring her kingdom. The process was not without challenges. Energy fluctuations in the engine threatened to destabilize the atmospheric grids. She had to manually reroute power through ancient conduits, some corroded and damaged by years of neglect. She had to improvise solutions, using scraps of technology she had carried with her and modifications she had made in space. Her mind worked tirelessly, balancing calculations, intuition, and quick thinking. At one point, a surge of energy nearly overwhelmed the system. The console flickered, alarms blared, and the palace trembled. Liara's hands flew across the controls, stabilizing the flux, recalculating flow, and restoring balance just in time. She exhaled, relief washing over her, but she knew there was no room for error. Every second mattered. Gradually, the effects of the Genesis engine expanded. The skies cleared further, revealing patches of blue. Crops began to grow in areas once thought barren. The rivers widened, their waters flowing steadily once more. Wildlife, previously driven from the land, returned cautiously, sensing the change in the environment. Citizens began to work the land again, planting seeds, tending to fields, and repairing damaged infrastructure. The kingdom was coming back to life. Liara finally allowed herself a moment to rest, sitting before the console as the hum of the Genesis engine filled the chamber. She reflected on the journey she had taken, leaving her dying kingdom, navigating the perils of space, outsmarting alien patrols, and activating the Genesis engine itself. Every trial had tested her courage, intelligence, and perseverance. Every challenge had strengthened her resolve and proved that humans, even when faced with extinction, could achieve the extraordinary. Orion's hologram hovered beside her, the AI's usual calm voice now carrying a note of admiration. Princess Liara, you have done what few could imagine. The Genesis engine is stable and the planet's recovery is underway. Humanity's ingenuity has proven itself once again. Liara smiled faintly, exhaustion and satisfaction mingling. It was not just me, she said softly. It was the people of Urendor, the lessons I learned along the way, and the drive to survive. Humans are capable of more than we often realize. I just had to take the first step. The days that followed were filled with rebuilding. Citizens worked tirelessly to repair cities, cultivate fields, and restore essential systems. Liara oversaw the efforts, guiding, teaching, and encouraging. She also made time to explore the changes brought about by the Genesis engine, observing the gradual return of the planet's vitality. Urendor's skies cleared fully for the first time in decades. Birds returned to the forests, rivers flowed freely, and the once cracked lands shimmered with life. The kingdom had been transformed not by magic, but by the perseverance, intelligence, and courage of a single human being. Liara's journey had inspired her people, reminding them of what they could achieve even in the face of overwhelming adversity. Though the planet was healing, Liara knew her own transformation was not complete. She had left her old self behind among the stars, having faced loneliness, danger, and uncertainty. She had discovered reserves of courage, ingenuity, and endurance she had never known existed. She had become more than a princess. She had become a symbol, a living testament to the potential of humanity. At night, she would stand on the palace balcony looking at the stars. She remembered the endless void she had crossed, the dangers she had faced, and the triumphs she had achieved. She thought of the Genesis engine, still humming with energy beneath the planet's surface, a silent guardian of Erendor's new life. Liara understood something profound. The kingdom had been dying, but she had not allowed that to be the end. Her courage, determination, and human ingenuity had rewritten the story. Erendor would survive, thrive, and grow stronger. Humanity, she realized, was not defined by the limits of the planet or the indifference of the galaxy. It was defined by resilience, creativity, and the refusal to surrender. The citizens of Erendor would speak of her journey for generations. They would tell of the young princess who left her dying world, who traveled to the edge of the galaxy, outsmarted alien guardians, activated the Genesis engine, and returned to heal her planet. They would remember that human courage and ingenuity could overcome even the most impossible odds. And Liara, standing beneath the clear skies of her restored kingdom, understood that her story was only beginning. She had proven that even in the face of extinction, humans could rise, adapt, and achieve greatness. The kingdom was no longer dying. It was alive, vibrant, and full of potential. Liara smiled, feeling a sense of peace and purpose she had never known before. She had started as a princess of a dying kingdom, but she had become the embodiment of human resilience and hope. The stars still stretched endlessly above, full of mysteries and challenges, but she was ready. Humanity was ready. The Genesis engine continued to hum beneath the surface, its energy flowing through the planet, stabilizing the climate, restoring life, and ensuring that Erendor's people could build a future worth living. And in the quiet moments, Liara could feel it, her presence, her determination, her human essence, woven into the energy itself. She was no longer just a princess. She was a guardian, a pioneer, and a symbol that humanity, even in its darkest hour, could rise and endure. Erendor had been dying, but Princess Liara had proven that one human heart, brave and determined, could rewrite the fate of a world. The kingdom was alive, and so too was hope. The stars above shimmered like a promise, and Liara knew that humanity's story was only just beginning. Her kingdom was dying, but the princess was just beginning.